minus 94 and counting. He was awakened promptly at 6 the following morning by a very loud buzzer. For a moment he was foggy, disorientated, wondering if Sheila had bought an alarm clock or what. And then it came to him, and he sat up. They were led by groups of 50 into a large industrial bathroom where they showed their cards to the camera, guarded by a policeman. Richards went to a blue tiled booth that contained a mirror, a basin, a shower, a toilet. On the shelf above the basin was a row of toothbrushes wrapped in cellophane, an electric razor, a bar of soap, and a half-used tube of toothpaste. A sign tucked into the corner of the mirror read, "Respect this property." Beneath it, someone had scrawled, "I only respect my ass." Richard showered, dried with a towel, and topped a pile topped a pile on the toilet tank, shaved and brushed. Right. They were led into a cafeteria where they showed their ID cards again. Richards took a tray and pushed it down a stainless steel ledge. He was given a box of cornflakes, a greasy dish of home fries, a scoop of scrambled eggs, a piece of toast as cold and hard as a marble gravestone, a half pint of milk, a cup of muddy coffee, no cream, and an envelope of sugar, an envelope of salt, and a packet of fake butter on a tiny square of oily paper. He wolfed the meal. They all did. For Richards, this was the first real food, other than greasy pizza wedges, the uh, government pill commodities that he'd eaten in God knew how long. Yet it was oddly bland, as if some vampire chef in the kitchen had sucked all the taste out of it and left only brute nutrients. What were they eating this morning? Kelp pills? Fake milk for the baby? A sudden feeling of desperation swelled over him. Christ, when would they start seeing the money? Today? Tomorrow? Next week? Or maybe that was just a gimmick too. A flashy come on. Maybe there wasn't even any rainbow, let alone a pot of gold. He sat staring at his empty plate until the 7 o'clock buzzer went on and they moved on to the elevators. Minus 93 and counting. On the fourth floor, Richard's group of 50 was herded into a large, uh, fur- uh, furnitureless room. Sorry, it was the word was split in two and it boggled my mind for a moment. Uh, Ringed with what looked like letter slots. They showed their cards again, and the elevator doors swooshed closed behind them. A gaunt man with receding hair, with "Games" and the emblem, a silhouette of a human head superimposed over a torch on his lab coat, came into the room. "Please undress and remove all valuables from your clothes," he said. "Then drop your clothes into one of the incinerator slots. You'll be issued Games coveralls." He smiled magnanimously. "You may keep the overalls, no matter what your personal games resolution may be." There was some grumbling, but everyone complied. "Hurry, please," the gaunt man said. He clapped his hands together twice, like a first-grade teacher signaling the end of playtime. "We've got lots ahead of us." "Are you going to be a contestant too?" Richards asked. The gaunt man favored him with a puzzled expression. Somebody in the back snickered. "Never mind," Richards said. He stepped out of his trousers. He removed his unvaluable valuables and dumped his shirt, pants, and skivvies into a letter slot. There was a brief, hungry flash of flame from somewhere far below. The door at the end opened. There was always a door at the other end. They were like rats in a huge, upward trending maze. An American maze, Richards reflected. And men trundled in large baskets on wheels, labelled S, M, L, and XL. Richard selected an XL for its length, and expected it to hang baggily over his frame, but it fit well. The material was soft, clingy, almost like silk, but tougher than silk. A single nylon zipper ran up the front. They were all dark blue. They all had the game's emblem on the right breast pocket. When the entire group was wearing them, Ben Richards felt like he had lost his face. "This way, please," the gaunt man said, and ushered them into another waiting room. The inevitable freebie blared and crackled. "You'll be called in groups of 10. The door beyond the freebie was topped by another sign, reading, "This way," completed with an arrow. They sat down. After a while, Richards got up and went to the window and looked out. They were higher up, but it was still raining. The streets were slick and black and wet. He wondered what Sheila was doing. -92 and counting. He went through the door. One group of 10 now, at 10:15. They went through single file. Their cards were scanned. There were 10 three-sided booths, but these were more substantial. The sides were constructed of drilled, soundproof cork panelling. The overhead lighting was soft and indirect. Muzak was emanating from within hidden speakers. There was plush carpet on the floor. Richards felt ashamed. Wait. Richards felt. Richard's feet felt startled by something that wasn't cement. The gaunt man had said something to him. Richards blinked. "Huh?" "Booth 6, the man said reprovingly. "Oh." He went into booth 6. There was a table inside, and a large wall clock mounted at eye level beyond it. On the table was a sharpened GA IBM pencil and a pile of unlined paper. "Cheap grade," Richards noted. Standing beside all this was a dazzling computer-age priestess. A tall, Junoesque blonde wearing iridescent short shorts, which cleanly outlined the delta-shaped oh my goodness, the delta-shaped rise of her pudenda. Rouged nipples poked perkily through a silk fishnet browslet. "Please sit," she said. "I'm Rinda Ward, your tester." She held out her hand. Startled, Richard shook it. "Benjamin Richards." "May I call you Ben?" The smile was seductive but impersonal. He felt exactly the token rise of desire he was supposed to feel for this well-stacked female with her well-fed body. It angered him. He wondered if she got her kicks this way, showing it off to poor slobs on their way to the meat grinder. "Sure," he said. "Nice tits." "Thank you," she said, unruffled. He was seated now, looking up while she looked down, and it added an even more embarrassing angle to the picture. "This test today is of your mental faculties, what your physical yesterday was to your body. It will be a fairly long test, and your luncheon will be around 3 this afternoon, assuming you pass." The smile winked on and off. "The first section is verbal. You have 1 hour of time when I give you the test booklet. You may ask questions during the examination, and I will answer them, if I am allowed to do so. I will not give you any answers to test questions, however. Do you understand?" "Yes." She handed him the booklet. It was a large red hand painted on the cover, palm outward. In large red letters beneath it said, "Stop." Beneath this, "Do not turn the first page until your tester instructs you to proceed." "Heavy," Richards remarked. "Pardon me?" The perfectly sculpted eyebrows went up a notch. "Nothing." "You will find an answer sheet when you open the booklet," she recited. "Please make your marks heavy and black. If you wish to change an answer, please erase completely. If you do not know an answer, do not guess. Do you understand?" "Yes." Then please turn to page 1 and begin. When I say stop, please put your pencil down. You may begin. He didn't begin. He eyed her body slowly, insolently. After a moment, she flushed. Your hour has begun, Ben. You'd better. Why? He asked. Does everyone assume that when they're dealing with someone from south of the canal, they're dealing with a horny, mental incompetent? She was completely flustered now. I never. No, you never. He smiled and picked up his pencil. My Christ, you people are dumb. He bent to the test while she was still trying to find an answer or even a reason for his attack. She probably didn't understand. The first section required him to answer the letter uh, of the correct fill-in-the-blank answer. Number 1. One something does not make a summer. A. Thought. B. Beer. C. Swallow. D. Crime. E. None of these. He filled in the answer rapidly, rarely stopping to deliberate or consider the answer twice. Fill-ins were followed by vocabulary, then by word contrasts. When he finished the hour allotted, he still had 15 minutes to run. She made him keep his exam. Legally, he couldn't give it to her until the hour was up, so Richards leaned back and wordlessly ogled her nearly naked body. The silence grew thick and oppressive, charged. He could see her wishing for an overcoat, and it pleased him. When the time was up, she gave him a second exam. On the first page, there was a drawing of a gasoline carburetor, and below, would you put this in A. Lawnmower, B. Freebie, C. Electric hammock, D. Automobile, E. None of these. The third exam was a math diagnostic. He was not so good with figures and began to sweat lightly as he saw the clock getting away from him. In the end, it was nearly a dead heat. He didn't get a chance to finish the last question. Rinda Ward smiled a trifle too widely as she pulled the test answer sheet away from him. Not so fast on that one, Ben. But they'll all be right, he said, and smiled back at her. He leaned forward and swatted her lightly on the rump. Take a shower, kid. You done good. She blushed furiously. I should have you disqualified. Bullshit. You should get yourself fired, that's all. Get out. Get back in line, she was snarling, suddenly near tears. He felt something almost like compassion and choked it back. You have a nice night tonight, he said. You go out and have a nice 6-course meal with whoever you're sleeping with this week, and think of my kid dying of flu back in a shitty 3-bedroom development apartment. He left her staring after him, white-faced. His group of 10 had been cut to 6, say trooped off to the next room. It was 1:30. Minus 91, and counting. The doctor on the other side of the table in the small booth wore glasses with thick, tiny lenses. He had a kind of nasty, pleased grin that reminded Richards of a half-wit he'd known as a boy. The kid had enjoyed crouching under the high school bleachers and looking up girls' skirts while he flogged his dog. Richards began to grin. Something pleasant? The doctor asked, flipping the first ink blot. The nasty grin widened the tiniest bit. Yes, you remind me of someone I used to know. Oh? Who? Never mind. Very well. What do you see here? Richards looked at it. The inflated blood pressure cuff that had been crinched into his right arm. A number of electrodes had been pasted to his head, and wires from both his head and arm were jacked into the console beside the doctor. Squiggly lines moved across the face of the computer console. Two black women kissing. He flipped up another one. This? A sports car. It looks like a Jag. Do you like gas cars? Richard shrugged. I had a model collection when I was a kid. The doctor made a note and flipped up another card. Sick person. She's lying on her side. The shadows on her face looked like prison bars. And the last one? Richards burst out laughing. Looks like a pile of shit. He thought about the doctor, complete with his white coat, running around under the bleachers, picking up girls' skirts and jacking off, and he began to laugh again. The doctor sat, smiling his nasty smile, making the vision more real, thus funnier. At least his giggles tapered off into a snort or two, or at last. Richards hiccuped once more and was still. I don't suppose you care to tell me. No, Richards said. I wouldn't. Well, we'll proceed then. Word association. He didn't bother to explain it. Richard supposed the word was getting around. That was good. It would save time. Ready? Yes. The doctor produced a stopwatch from the inside of his pocket and clicked the business end of his ballpoint pen and considered a list in front of him. Oh my goodness. Right. Some of these some of these words coming up, ladies and gentlemen, I can't say, but we'll we'll do our best here. Doctor. Neighbor, Richards responded. Penis, cock, red, black, silver, dagger, rifle, murder, win, money, sex, tests, strike, out. The list continued. We went through over 50 words before the doctor clicked the stem of his stopwatch down and dropped his pen. Good, he said. He folded his hands and looked at Richard seriously. I have a final question, Ben. I won't say that I know a lie when I hear it, but the machine you're hooked up to will give a very strong indication, one way or the other. Have you decided to try for qualification status in the games out of any suicidal motivation? No. What is your reason? My little girl's sick. She needs a doctor, medicine, hospital care. The ballpoint pen scratched. Anything else? Richards was on the verge of saying no, that was none of their business, but then decided he would give it his all. Perhaps because the doctor looked like that nearly forgotten dirty boy of his youth, maybe only because it needed to be said once, to make it coalesce and take concrete shape, as things do when a man forces himself to translate unformed emotional reactions into words. I haven't had work for a long time. I want to work again, even if it's only being a sucker man in a loaded game. I want to work and support my family. I have pride. Do you have pride, doctor? It goes before a fall, the doctor said. He clicked the tip of his ballpoint pen. If you have nothing to add, Mr. Richards, he stood up. That, and the switch back to his surname, suggested that the interview was over, whether Richards had any more to say or not. No. The door is down the hall to your right. Good luck. Sure, said Richards. Minus 90. And counting. The group Richards had come in with was now reduced to 4. The new waiting room was much smaller, and the whole group was, or had been reduced by roughly the same figure of 60%. The last of the Ys and Zs straggled in at 4:30. At 4, an orderly had circulated with a tray of tasteless sandwiches. Richards got 2 of them and sat munching, listening to a pal named Rettenmund as he regaled Richards and a few others with a seemingly inexhaustible fund of dirty stories. When the whole group was together, they were shunted into an elevator and lifted to the 5th floor. Their quarters were made up of large common rooms, a large communal lavatory, and the inevitable sleep factory with its rows of cots. They were informed that a cafeteria down the hall would serve a hot meal at 7 o'clock. Richard sat still for a few minutes, then he got up and walked over to the cop stationed at the door that they had come in through. Is there a telephone, pal? He didn't expect that they would be allowed to phone out, but the cop merely jerked his thumb toward the hall. Richards pushed the door open a crack and peered out. Sure enough, there it was, a payphone. He looked at the cop again. Listen, if you loan me 50 cents for the phone, I'll... Screw off, Jack. Richards held his temper. I want to call my wife. Our kid is sick. Put yourself in my place, for Christ's sake. The cop laughed, a short, choppy, ugly sound. You types are all the same. A story for every day of the year. Technicolor and 3D on Christmas and Mother's Day. You bastard, Richard said, with something in his eyes. The stance of his shoulders suddenly made the cop shift, his gaze to the wall. Aren't you married yourself? Didn't you ever find yourself strapped and have to borrow, even if it tasted like shit in your mouth? The cop suddenly jammed his hand into his jumper pocket and came back with a fistful of plastic coins. He thrust 2 new quarters at Richards and stuffed the rest of the money back in his pockets. Richards grabbed he grabbed a handful of Richard's tunic. If you send anyone else over here because Charlie Grady is a soft touch, I'll beat your son of a bitching brains in, maggot. Thank you, Richard said steadily, for the loan. Charlie Grady laughed and let him go. Richards went out into the hall, picked up a phone, and dropped the money into the horn. It banged hollowly, and for a moment nothing happened. Oh, great, all for nothing. But then the dial tone came. He punched the number of the fifth floor hall. He punched the number of the fifth floor hall phone slowly, hoping the Jenner bitch down the hall wouldn't answer. She'd just as soon yell the wrong number when she recognized his voice, and he would lose his money. It rang 6 times, and then an unfamiliar voice said, Hello? I want to talk to Sheila Richards in 5C. I think she went out, the voice said. It grew insinuating. She walks up and down the block, you know. She's got a sick kid. The man in there is shiftless. Just knock the door, he said, cotton-mouthed. Hold on. The phone on the other end crashed against the wall as the unfamiliar voice let it dangle. Far away, dim as if in a dream, he heard the unfamiliar voice knocking and yelling, Phone! Phone for you, Mrs. Richards. Half a minute later, the unfamiliar voice was back on the line. She ain't there. I can hear the kid yelling, but she ain't there. Like I say, she keeps an eye out for when the fleet's in, the voice giggled. Richards wished he could teleport himself through the phone and pop out the other end, like an evil genie, from the black phone, and choke the unfamiliar voice until his eyeballs popped out and rolled on the floor. Take a message, he said. Write one on the wall if you have to. I ain't got no pencil. I'm hanging up. Goodbye. Wait, Richards yelled, panic in his voice. I'm... Just a second, grudgingly the voice said. She's coming up the stairs now. Richards collapsed sweatily against the wall. A moment later, Sheila's voice was in his ear, quizzical, weary, a little frightened. Hello? Sheila. He closed his eyes, letting the wall support him. Ben, is that you? Are you all right? Yeah, fine. Kathy, is she the same? The fever isn't so bad, but she sounds so croupy. Ben, I think there's water in her lungs. What if she has pneumonia? It'll be all right. It'll be all right. She paused, a long pause. I hate to leave her, but I had to, Ben. I turned 2 tricks this morning. I'm sorry, but I got her some medicine at the drug. Some good medicine. Her voice had taken over a zealous, evangelical lilt. That stuff is shit, he said. Listen, no more, Sheila, please. I think I'm in here. Really. They can't cut any more guys because there's too many. They can't cut many more guys because there's too many shows. They've got enough cannon fodder for a go around, but they give advances, I think. Mrs. Upshaw, she looked awful in black, Sheila broke in tonelessly. Never mind that. You stay with Kathy, Sheila. No more tricks. All right, I won't go out again. But he didn't believe her voice. Fingers crossed, Sheila. I love you, Ben. And I love. 3 minutes were up. The operator broke in. If you wish to continue, please deposit 1 new quarter or 3 old quarters. Wait a second, Richards yelled. Get off the goddamn line, bitch. You. The empty hum of a broken connection. He threw the receiver. It flew the length of the silver cord, then rebounded, striking the wall, then penduluming slowly back and forth, like some strange snake that had bitten once and then died. Somebody has to pay, Richards thought numbly as he walked back. Somebody has to. Do I want to do any more? We'll say that's enough for today. Lovely. Thanks for listening. And sorry about the language in this. I should have read this before I read it to you. That's no good, is it? The type of things he's saying. But we'll keep at it. Keep at it anyway, as long as we can. And I'll get it uploaded. That'll be Tuesday for our Horror Tuesdays. So thanks for listening. And I'll see you soon.